Okay, so first up was Sergeant at Arms. This was Ben. Ben does a couple of things really nice. One is he always gives this warm, positive, and encouraging introduction for the chairperson. The chairperson always feels incredibly special after he's given this introduction, and it's really nice, and it's an important part of how we start the meetings here. I also liked how he gave a little reminder about the name tags. You know, it's worth $1. So from Coy's perspective, nobody wear name tags, we'll make lots of money. Our perspective, we want to keep them. Next person is the chairman. A few things here. One was he asked a really thoughtful question. Now, normally with such a large grouping, I was going, oh, okay, here comes the thoughtful question, we're toast, this is going to take forever to get through. However, he had this meeting very well planned. He knew how much time he had, and he used it all very well. He's right on time. It took 20 minutes to do the introductions. Normally that would kill a meeting if we had full 4 speakers and trying to cram in lots of table topics. But he knew what he was doing. He had this well under control. Another example of having things well under control was during the motions. At one point, it was all kind of done, it was sort of dying down, and then he turned to Mike, and he wanted Mike's opinion on the CL program. Mike hadn't said anything, but he is the coordinator of the CL program, and the motion was all about the CL program, so it seemed very fitting, and I thought that was a nice sign of control, asking out for the expert in the audience. I think I used that wrong just now. But that's okay. She didn't notice. So it's important for the chairperson to have good control of the meeting, and he showed that. For our inspirator did something very interesting. She said, my message is simple, don't fear fear, and then she got clapped down because her introduction was a little bit too long heading into all that, but she had this great succinct point right in there, which, you know, I sat up waiting for, you know, what was she going to say? The grammarian, Robin. 2 things I want to point out. One was the quote, used ums and ahs like some people swear. I think that was just enjoyable to hear. Next one here, I wrote up this really long sentence because I just, even though I don't count for the word of the day, I just have to try this out here. So, Robin implied that many of us incorrectly use the word infer. Based on that, I inferred that it would be a good idea to reinforce by implying that we should all practice the correct usage of these words. I should be paid for that, I think, now. Joke master Fred, his hand gestures were great. And his punchline he says, and just give him another chance. And that's how he wrapped it up. I thought that was a wonderful use of hand gestures. Now we move into the parliamentarian role. This was Dimitri. I like the use of the word nevertheless. I even just jumbled it up. You say it so clearly, it's nevertheless. It just comes out. Sometimes it's nice to hear some of these big words thrown around sometimes. He also reminded us, or reminded the executive, that if they don't have something to say, teach the rest of us about what the role is. That's important. There's so many new members. Timer, Josh. He showed us the lights. He showed how the lights were working so that people know where to look. They're right there. Sometimes people kind of get lost as to where the lights are. And he was good at clapping people down. Hopefully he doesn't have to do this in about 6 minutes. Parkmaster Linda, she asked a wide variety of questions, some easy ones, some really, really tough ones. Spent a little bit of time on Andrew's history, but that's okay. For table topics, Mike. Mike did a few things that were very well done. One, he explained the importance of table topics. This need to have some impromptu skills. Then he gave some examples, like, when you got to explain to your wife why the visible is so big, which was kind of enjoyable. His hand gestures were very nice. Historically, there's been a bit of a role reversal here tonight. I'll get into this. Historically, he keeps his elbows in, and he does this. Today, the elbows were out. He was describing stuff. It felt much more open, much more relaxed. It was really nice to see. Something else that he did a couple of times, would have been good to have it done all the time, but he did some very good bridging, some very genuine bridging. Actually, overall today, we had some really good examples of good bridging, which is speakers just finished, they're sitting down, the audience is kind of settling in for the next speaker, and the person in charge explains a little bit about what you just heard. A nice little segue into the next speaker. Table topics, evaluators. Carl was the first, well actually it was the second one up, but I'll talk to him first. Carl is the master of the hand gestures. You know, this snap in the back, I can't even do it that fast. I don't know how you do that. Open hands. He tells you exactly what he wants you to see. He's using large amounts of space to create the information he's trying to communicate to you. Thinking off the top of your head. Now, for the point of improvement is to not use the phrase point of improvement. I would suggest something to consider would be, or someone else used, I challenge her to do the following next time. That's a little bit smoother way to get into that. He does have some excellent pacing. He can speed up when he needs to, he can talk softly, he can slow it down, pause for a while. Gets back into it. You always feel engaged. It's always a dynamic, like an auditory. It's like actually it's like a sensory overload sometimes. Hand gestures and this vocal variety coming at you. It's great. It's wonderful. And I think everyone can learn from his examples. Evaluator, Jerry. He had some really good examples on strengths and points of improvement. That's something that's really nice to see. Is here's something and here's some really concrete examples of how you could do it next time. Or for us, how it could look another time. Here's where we get into the role reversal. Mike was out, Jerry was in, around. But then he set himself up for some relaxation when he got into talking about, Robin stands. And the other one was, Linda leaning way over kind of thing. Once he did that, his body language opened up very quickly. And he relaxed, the elbows actually came out. It was quite nice. Toastmaster, Jack. I think he had an outstanding toast. Go Canada, go. You can't lose with that one. Tends to read a bit from his notes. I would like to encourage him in the future to read a little less from his notes. Maybe talk to some people to find some strategies. He also gave some good examples of very good bridging. Some genuine commentary on how the person just spoke. Now we get into the evaluators. Ben gives some extremely supportive, very encouraging, very positive evaluations. And this was definitely a good feel-good evaluation, which is nice for the first speech. What I'd like to encourage him to do is to get into some of the details, get into some of the specifics, the nitty-gritty, give us some concrete examples of what I saw and how it could be changed or improved for the next time. Now for Robin, she had some great hand gestures. She uses the open space really well. Talked a lot about vocal variety, quiet, vivid. She gave the examples, actually gave the sounds specifically. There was one thing that is a little tenuous to get into, which is commenting on the content of the speech. Be careful not to get into that. The job is to evaluate the speech, the delivery of the speech, not the content of the speech. And there was a little bit of dabbling. But otherwise, she talked about how Sylvia pulls her in with her eyes and her hand gestures, and it was very well done.